Hello, black people. Hello, species value nature system. Yeah. Judging Freedom is a YouTube channel name by Judge Napolitano, who was formerly employed by Fox News. On off, Fox News, Fox Connecticut News in Hartford, Connecticut, and on off WFSB in Rocky Hill, and the on off the locations next to it, and on off WTNH, and the locations next to it. Our roles we can use to discern how names A through Z, at countries A through Z, and as legal identities A through Z, how they are being and have been used remotely by a breaching method since they were kids that caused negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures that forced, tricked, hurt, and persuaded them to entertain blamed on other things, others, or on selves. That what that breaching method caused, with demonstrations of that. But instead, that has not been appreciated because also has been everyone has been used remotely. Otherwise, you incensed, and if not appreciating that, blaming other things, others, and/or selves for what a breaching method caused. James Madison and our founders communicated for us to understand the difference between the founders as the ones and how the humanity had to be counter extorted by the other founders, and how the method to do this was the plan that George Washington agreed to be the first president to represent, which is distinct from the first founders. And we were supposed to be honest with this about how they all had to hide roles entertaining what couldn't be entertained, and the Constitution unabridged, defended gotten, let alone defended unabridged. We're supposed to, because they didn't have free speech. The nature of debate was prevented too with this. So Judge Napolitano has male and female military sources who came through schools with the differences. Some schools were better than others, but the differences between schools A through Z, that's also used remotely by this breaching method at countries A through Z. It employed uses of names as systems tactical ulterior from the one, as nature, which employed these differences, black pupils. So we discern fish have eyes like humanity, distinct from but non-distinct too. Quality aspects, nature, the birds, even the insects. See, but Earth's a special difference through humanity that has been criminally foreign influenced and self-valued rules with criminally foreign influenced systems. Per the definition, nature presents. Nature has means to show us, obligations to discern a hyper foreign body as a scientific value relative to questions that are inherent to, active to, and increasingly with histories A through Z. In America and in Russia, for example, the suburbs look almost exactly alike because before America's founders were born, before Russia's founders were born, already groupings of humanity, all humanity voicings, therefore, and all individuals. They were leaving out because they were otherwise they were sensed and hurt, even if they were majorities, leaving out how we were being used as systems tactical terror from the hypernative one. All counters to it were still collusion /S, pretending other, screening it, increasingly, apparently for other additional motivations, increasingly there, but increasingly as ones that aren't the actual motivations. So increasingly, since America's founding, on off, Connecticut's judicial branch offices in Weathersfield, Connecticut, on off the founding location /S, with America's founding as Connecticut was the last of the 13 locations influenced to used to move past the first phase called the American Revolution, the Revolutionary War, singularly. But in other words, the breaching method knew distinctly from our founders that the Revolutionary War would be a continued war. They had to first become a country out of nowhere. They first had to get the help of countries that were involved with keeping the extents of any one individually grouped together or any group individually grouped together. That they would try to be independence properly or unity properly. It needs natures of unity and that are negative and positive as collusion to keep screening the breaching method. Now, to understand this explains how computers work. But each of the identities of each of the sciences have been shown needs, means, and natures. They've been shown, in other words, the lead up to be an expert on a science. You are shown before you get there. The sciences are how they are being and have been abridged, self-valued, abridged, and that is being and has been used remotely, criminally foreign influence. Certain type of victim / hyper victim. Forgiveness is relative to be led by the hyper invisible, but still discernible, and not leave out the roles of other names in the hyper foreign, which science shows us a need to scientifically name. A hyper-archetypal criminal enterprise. I am not a lawyer, I'm not a police force, I'm not a criminal. But there are remote uses of the directors of agencies. For example, a former standing chairperson on the Racketeering Influence to Corrupt Organization Act, Robert Luskin, and co-defendants of his, and their roles with foreign and domestic military and intelligence community on and off the Central Connecticut State University and Trinity College, who have been roles of West Hartford Lake locations since before the World Trade Center attack, short-term and long-term, as their roles intercampuses on off Central Connecticut State University and Trinity College, campuses filmed 24/7. They've been planting fabricated audio and video, collusions with people like there's a Joshua Stryker who's involved with some KKK black themed and Latino themed and intercultural, Italian themed people, all and the difference of that, involved with prosecutors and judges of New Britain Superior Court, Hartford Courts, and Connecticut's District Court, involved as roles with all names on all sides of criminal and civil cases, and their sources, including their differences, because they have roles with readings of statutes with Russian and American families, for example, that are involved, whether they realize it or not, with NASA and other natures of agencies and uses of differences, black pupils. Like, for example, regarding the readings of statutes, they have roles with criminally foreign influenced communications uses, roles with the counters to it too. All natures of difference, like say someone, the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, has rules also with the employment of cyber police and natures like narratives regarding policies. This is relative to where and to how. Also, physical businesses where there have been murders and things claimed suicide that would demonstrably, even if they made the whole thing up. These are people that have been involved with forensics locations and with the hospitals and morgues. They have also been planting evidences all along roads and routes, on and off campuses, roles. And the differences between the kids as the ones criminally foreign influenced completely, or how the adults are the ones criminally foreign influenced completely, because there's those complete collusions, but for different motivations, natures of roles with different natures of organized crime, methods of them, and interests with them, that including the countering bodies increasingly have. So the FBI has roles with people named Ian and a former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, involved with upskirt pictures, also with female judges and ones that work for Harper Courts, involved with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, where the branches are also recorded with predicate acts methods grouped and individual grouped, and then there are simultaneous ones relative to where and to how. Uses of words like politics, like voting, and like, in other words, they have forced, tricked, hurt, and persuaded all sides with issues like censorship, used to measure and maintain for the breaching method, to sense for it. In other words, they're getting involved with people's conversations online, criminally foreign influence ways, with the judges and prosecutors, criminally foreign influence uses of readings of statutes, exploitations of where it's just too expensive and there's no one with the capability of making a proper subject treatment for how they raise lawyers at countries A through Z, for how the breaching method uses the differences A through Z, and the difference shared, self-valued, suits and ties, counters, exceptions, where they use like peace or war, and the difference of that. There's a difference between hyper peace and peace that nature shows us to value, because there is the criminal insidiousness natures of peace have been used since semi-ancient times, can prepare our minds. So the military, that the Marines are reported, they're trying to count for money, but we know the Marines have roles with Koreans and with Air Force people, and ones I don't know which service they're a part with, in inter-services, with the name Kolvinskis and Violet, and a former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, one name, people with the name Leahy, attached me to fake conversations with themselves as doctors, ones with badges. A whole bunch of people at Hartford Hospital who've been planting evidences on my street since I was a kid from other areas. You should fear God for where and how, which actually been recorded on and off the state judicial branch offices of Connecticut as roles with the names on off the World Trade Center attack in Miami, on off the spots next to that building, like the Ninth Circuit Court. These are also names that have been on all sides of criminal and civil cases, collusions with the judges and prosecutors and their family members and people associated with them. They use crime methods of pretending others say everyone's evil. And they increasingly attach people to fake conversations with themselves and with others and with everyone around them. They put faked and changed communications. Investigators on a mass scale were and are used remotely criminally foreign influence. And this is demonstrated by nature to us at locations where and how there's behavior racketeering worse than war crimes on a mass scale, while they are tactically delusions raw. So they've been forging names and switching names into branch. And they pretend we're even, and those are crimes. So they're pretending we're making allegations against them. But in other words, they're lying about what they think about our motivations and about their own, where and how they've been used remotely since they were kids. Roles of predicate acts with facts method /S, where they have the kids and the adults putting fake things in databases that are little tricks roles, where there are conscious methods and singularly recorded of effectively using the sense and sensibilities of the different types of titles at the courts, like a victim's advocates are increasingly involved with names on off crime scenes as collusions. The outcomes of cases are increasingly used as collusions. And they're lying about the outcomes of cases with the news at the same time, with the interbranch putting fake things in databases increasingly there, because they entertain theories that are delusions, wrought, and criminally foreign influence, factory nature, quality aspects of nature. Uses of the right to lie where they don't have the right to lie. Uses of forcing nature debate where they don't. In other words, we could have a quality of fact cheating nature and let nature itself reveal how to make the right statutes. We need a statute called "Who Disbelieves Act," because we're going to come out the people in those New York City buildings in the cartoon value nature system are going to come out of those buildings. Now they're counter extorted too. But see, but little rap guy and friends has them counter extorted to teach American history right and to teach other histories right, because modern countries' histories are not allowed told properly by the people in charge, and or the difference between that overt criminal enterprises, private ones, the intelligence, how they are grouped with other countries, coupled with other countries like with borders, but now tactical ulterior from how nature uses grouping, the way and the significance of it, the ways we know, but simultaneously how hyper additionally as itself, wherein how it demonstrates there is one identity of volume that is other volume, and where volume equals value as nature slash nature simultaneously, distinctly, nature as value slash value as nature. This is true conversely slash hyper conversely. Three ways. The slash is being used for an additional identity of volume. And, for example, is used as a coordinating or correlating conjunction relative to this. The sciences, math, English, the languages are about relativity slash hyperrelativity. And the identity of hypersimultaneous and or hyperrelativity has three distinct identities of relationship to itself. Has one that demonstrably will not juxtapose with matter. There has one that will juxtapose with matter. And there's one that juxtaposes where it's not matter and where it is juxtaposed with matter, and where that one way is, where even though it's not, it is anyway. Juxtaposed. Like a mixture is the mixture, but is the active grouped more properly. Mixture, I'm using a word too, I should quote. On HBO, I saw about Bruce Lee. He referred to the mixture. I believe he was, but this was the mixture of what is mathematical regarding fighting. I don't know how he described it, but for example, nature can be used to answer our questions. And one thing, if you're shadowboxing and you're trying to count your shadowboxing, that's probably one of the things he would agree with. In other words, that you become more mathematical. You're locking yourself down. Boxing. It teaches in boxing, martial arts, and wrestling share individually, so but they share grouped an identity of value, where boxing, martial arts, and wrestling are about fighting, but they're about fighting by the rules. See, but rules are abridged and have been self-valued abridged, and the natural reasons for that have been employed. They were propagated and are maintained self-cultivated, though. Oh, it maintains them self-cultivating, for example, by maintaining people blaming other things, others, or selves. Increasingly, they are valuing where and how the hyper additional identities we are as voicings for and as Earth. Well, not as the other species as voicing for them as our own now. See, nature communicates with these things. Why we have black pupils, whites of eyes, same color eyes as the same color eyes at the same time, as the two colors they're playing games with. Since before our founders were born, they had effectively employed that to measure and maintain other things, others, or selves, besides the breaching method being and having been blamed. That is effective self means to measure and maintain self-valued roles as all natures of hierarchy and as all natures of exceptions to that, as collusions used as tools, clearer than day, incapable of defending defenses of the fact, treatment, nature, quality, aspects, and natures of people wearing suits and ties, of people wearing counters to that, necessary counters to that, and exceptions, because they have staged collusions. Otherwise, that body is sensed, even if that body is a majority of people, even if that body is a majority of countries. So one thing we could do, I'll donate a business to the countries, to countries that could donate their part. In other words, it's for them to donate to other countries too. But so we can overcome together impositions that have stayed entrenched because of the breaching method. Like many of the threats and natures of threats against all sides, with weapons of all natures, let alone nuclear weapons, let alone supersonic weapons, let alone from space, from beyond our special difference. No. Evolution comes here. Evolution's fruits, gifts, means out of nowhere. Vaccines. Also, so uses of all words and all subject treatments contain demonstrations of this. All predicate act relativity treatment, all predicate of treatment of identity treatments. The news is recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with foreign and domestic medical families, as ones who are also intelligence agencies, involved with judges and prosecutors and their family members, putting fake motivations and communicating other than they're pretending at crime scenes, and where and how and why. Investigators never stop being used remotely, criminally, foreign influenced. Where and how and why the people that run the prisons never stop being roles with all kinds of natures of organized crime juxtaposed. Abuses of kids as people pretending to be against such that forced the principal child abuser. Oh, well, I thought it was the legitimate information. They know every day. They've been using methods to hide people, to measure and maintain. They're gonna hide. They're gonna leave out details and things regarding, for example, their roles with names next to the body dumping spots, completely unconnected body dumping spots, where the killers have increasingly roles with people with conscious uses of adjacents to and conjunctions to Connecticut State Judicial Branch offices, and the difference of that. As people involved with KKK, black themed, and Confederate flag themed collusion with those differences. They're playing a shell game, putting fake motivations. So they're when they speak about money, oh, where's the money? Follow the money. They're being used to measure and maintain for the breaching method that was measuring and following money before our founders were capable of doing it properly. And our presidents, they only have 4 years. Before they come into the office, countries A through Z were already torturing, extorting, and roles with slavery of themselves by also a foreign body, hyper foreign body, that every one of them A through Z, and therefore all they blamed other things, others themselves, and that person was sentenced. Where it comes up, where there's insanity with the things that are only allowed to be manifest at all formal legal locations. And the difference of that, overt criminal enterprises, private ones, the insidious, because this assigned guilt to measure and maintain. The differences between the ones criminally foreign influenced as the interbranch link regarding Jim Crow laws. That's why they can't afford to have discerned what nature has manifest, relative / hyperrelative to Jim Crow laws with. They're an increasing value as means to show increasingly there was a predicate acts with facts method using the differences as it assigned them to be self-valued, self-defended uses, U/S, when people are having debates. There's a complete hyperpossession over the nature of debates, plural. Otherwise, that body is sensed. So there are criminally foreign influence readings of statutes and precedents that can easily be discerned, Black peoples, but we have to have mandated law followed. Judge Napolitano is one of the justices, a retired judge, reportedly from New Jersey courts. And he worked for Fox News. But Fox Connecticut News has roles with intelligence community names and ones associated with them, professionally in other ways, and the difference of that also used, including News, who News has roles with predicate acts with facts methods, whole wire crime acts methods, increasingly planting evidences on off crime scenes, increasingly simultaneously, preemptively, for grouped reasons, active and for active nature reasons, and per how used remotely, while, for example, being shown needs to do that in the future too, which is relative. One of the things that everyone shares at countries A through Z are those roles with keeping those overt / insidious, simultaneously insidious uses of location / S, location singular, everywhere the species body volume is. See, we know that they had obligations. After we could use the hyperscope to discern Black people, they had obligations to discern the existence of criminally foreign influence databases with the sense and sensibilities, to use Jane Austen's phrase, and or to use it with and as the value of those who have been using Jane Austen's name and phrases. Even though I didn't even read the book that reportedly is in that phrase, sense and sensibility. In other words, and or as the title of the book, including, for example, the narratives and natures regarding T-tax in America, the T-tax and protesters, T-tax and with the American Revolution. They're using this to measure and maintain left out and told other is that which our founders communicated for us to understand about how and why none of our founders had free speech. Therefore, our presidents couldn't. And slavery was entrenched, for example, sickly distinctly against everyone, but sickly non-distinctly against everyone too. See, where and how we are means to overcome this. Most important and most critically is where and how we are fact treatment nature, where and how we are quality as fact treatment nature. And the difference, this is where we have to appreciate the difference between positive as criminal insidiousness or positive as that which is also positive unto itself. This is where we have to appreciate which we are actually capable of discerning, which are definitions of and natures of debate regarding things like criminal insidiousness, things like criminal foreign influences used effectively to measure and maintain, things like hypercriminal foreign influences blamed on other things, others, and or on selves, Black pupils. Even if you want to debate the use, the validity of using the phrase hypercriminally foreign influence, you're gonna have to. In other words, it's a distinct nature of criminal foreign influences that which had slavery non-distinctly, but also sickly distinctly, also through other names of different countries, entrenched in northern colonies and in southern colonies. See, where there are mass needs to respond to all kinds of things that they call hate and stuff like that. When they say hate, when they respond to people's narratives and natures online, they're leaving out what's actually recorded in databases, being and having been stacked. There are private companies, interstates, who have roles with the medical community in Connecticut. They've been putting fake transcripts in databases. They've been showing the little kids and their parents that and how they have roles of predicate acts with facts methods. They're doing things, they're doing things like in backgrounds, like pretending they have been using rights to lie legitimately. There have been roles with uses of all investigations, investigators remotely criminally born influence since founding. Black pupils see the whites of eyes, don't you? Attend. So we don't have one intelligence body capable of speaking for America properly. Where and how our name